The Oscar 2024 predictions show. Yeah! Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of And the Cineweb Goes To. It's been a minute. How have you been? It's been a whole year since the last Oscars. It's been a whole year. 2024. Wow, that's crazy, isn't it? But that is besides the point. I'm here by myself today. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get anyone to tag along with me, but I figured, hey, I have to get my predictions out there into the universe. I know I've been thinking about it a lot. I can't keep this off my chest, whatever. That's all besides the point. So this will just be me. Doing this more of a podcast style. I don't know if I'll have a lot of editing to go along with this. I just want to talk about my general predictions. I'll be going through, I want to say, a good majority of the categories. Probably not the shorts or the documentaries that I admittedly haven't done a lot of research into and haven't been able to keep up with the race. But, I think that's enough lead in. Let's get right into it with the big one, Best Picture. And, here I have my predictions here on my iPad. And what I have as 1 and 2 is the movie event of the year. I have them, a minor spoiler alert for my personal best of list. But I have these films in tandem on the list here. They take up 2 slots, but they are both absolute certainties for a Best Picture nomination, and that is Barbenheimer. Barbie and Oppenheimer. Probably, technically speaking, it'd be Oppenheimer 1 and Barbie 2, but really, Barbenheimer will get nominated. The power of how big of an event this was for the year is definitely going to push it through to a Best Picture nomination, both of them. And both just quality on their own. Barbie having Greta Gerwig behind the camera on director. Both times she's done that, she's gotten a Best Picture nomination. Nolan also is always usually a shoo-in. And this, I feel like, obviously we'll get to director later, but I feel like this is very much his equivalent to Schindler's List, to where with Oppenheimer, everybody is aside from The Dark Knight, which everybody was famous for being one of the movies that people thought of is why they pushed it to be up to 10. And Oppenheimer feels, The Dark Knight you could say was his Jaws or E.T. If we're going to compare him with Spielberg. Oppenheimer is absolutely Nolan's Schindler's List. Not exactly in terms of the content, because they're stylistically very different, even though they take place during similar time periods, but just the grand scaleness of it, there's just sort of for most people, there's sort of a undeniable, it's about damn time factor with Oppenheimer, which it's obviously the front runner to win. I think Barbie could still take it, because I think Barbie is still a huge contender for this. It is the biggest movie of the year financially, and it has had a huge impact on people. It'll just have to depend on. No, excuse me, that sounded weird. It'll definitely just have to depend on the impact that it has at the with Academy voters. Either way, they're both safe nominations for Best Picture. And really, I think there are 6 to 7, maybe even 8 safe bets for movies of getting Best Picture nominations. My number 3 right now, I'll stick with this. I haven't checked this one in a while. I've been checking my lists, my predictions steadily, but Best Picture, I guess I haven't checked this in a while, but I do feel pretty confident in my number three being American Fiction. I just saw it last Thursday at the time of this recording, and I thought it was very good. And it's really taking off with Academy voters, critics. It's it's making all the right rounds. It's doing all the right things. It is an easy lock for Best Picture nomination. I know a number of people say that it could sneak in an upset win. I'm not quite sure about that, just given the power of Barbie and Oppenheimer. But it certainly is very, it's certainly a bigger contender, and it is an easy lock for a nomination. Excuse me, just as much as the number four movie, which is also in the contention of potentially even a Best Picture upset, and that is The Holdovers. Again, another movie I saw, I believe it was during my Thanksgiving break. It's been making the rounds at the festivals, doing all the right things. I believe it won Critics' Choice for Paul Giamatti. I could be wrong on that. I mean, I know obviously it won some awards at the award show that shall not be named. And it'll definitely secure a lot of Guild nominations. I believe. I know it got. It's SAG nominations. For the standard people, it is an easy lock for a nomination. It is a very. It's not quite a crowd pleaser, but it makes people feel good enough, and it definitely fulfills a very specific niche. And I think it's been playing all the right moves with the awards race. It's an easy lock for a Best Picture nomination. Next up I have is another one, an easy lock is Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things. This is actually, out of my Oscars catch-up movies, this is actually probably one of the ones that has caught on with me the most. I really dug Poor Things. I haven't seen The Favorite or The Lobster or Killing of Sacred Deer, but I know the pedigree of those movies. Yorgos got some love with the bevy of nominations for The Favorite and the win for Olivia Colman. And I think it'll definitely continue through here. It's definitely going to get at least one or two nominations, whether it be with Best Actress or production design. It's definitely the hashtag weird movie for this award season. And it's definitely fulfilling that niche there. So it is an easy lock for a nomination. At the time, I moved this film down to 10 because I thought it was losing steam, but now I will bump it up to 6 because it does seem like it is still a firm contender and will easily get a nomination for Best Picture. Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, it's exactly what you expect. It's Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro. I mean, it's the Oscars package movie. And I liked it. I think it didn't connect with me as much as other people did. I thought it was going to be like an equivalent to The Irishman or Star is Born, where it would lose steam during this awards season, but it clearly hasn't. It has held a lot better than expected, and it's definitely surprised me in that regard. I think Apple and Paramount have been doing very good with campaigning for this. I mean, Lily Gladstone is a real contender to win Best Actress. Her and Emma Stone, obviously, we'll get to them later. But Killers of the Flower Moon, I mean, it's just like, I mean, it's the Oscars package movie. And it is probably a safe nomination. It's not probably, it is definitely a safe bet to get a Best Picture nomination, which is why I'm moving it up to 6. So then that would change my previous 6 to my 7, and that is one of my favorite films of the year. I saw it at the Philly Film Festival early. I adored it. I haven't seen it again since, but I really can't wait to. That is Bradley Cooper's Maestro. I adored this movie. I am not seeing quite the people who love it really do love it. But then there's like a lot of people that are also like, it's also an Oscars packaging movie, which it is, but it also is just, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And it's also, every different strokes for different folks. It really connected with me. I loved A Star Is Born. I love this. It's definitely going to be get a slew of nominations like a lot of other categories. It is another. I think it's Netflix's biggest contender for this season. So that makes it an even bigger lock, because I feel like most studios have one, if not two, movies. That they're vying for Best Picture, and Maestro is Netflix's Oscars darling this year, and it is an easy lock for nomination again. And 7 to 8 are easy locks. That would make 8, and I would love to move this movie up higher because it is another one of my favorite movies of the year. It was one of the earlier contenders from, I believe it premiered at Sundance last January. Yeah, it did. And then it got its release in June. And again, it is also this big studio's major Oscar contender, and that is Celine Song's Past Lives. Obviously, A24 won big last year with Everything Everywhere All at Once and The Whale. And I think they, it is, Past Lives, I don't need to tell you twice how profound it is. Again, not to spoil my best of personal list too much, but it will be, it's on there. And it's on a lot of people's lists. It is profound. It is very poignant. It's connecting with a lot of different people. I wish it were in contention for more awards. And out of the expected nominees, I think that it has the biggest shot to get snubbed. But that's still not likely. Past Lives is looking pretty good. It's still making the rounds pretty well. People are really connecting with it, I think. And again, it is A24's big contender this year, and they're putting all their chips behind that. So that makes it a safe. That makes it another safe bet. A lot of safe bets for 7 to 8 movies on this list for Best Picture. And then the two that is definitely every critic's list or predictions list I've found has had a different 9 and 10. I'm just looking at, I forgot to write honorable mentions, but there are so many movies vying for this 9 and 10 slot, really. Not that the Academy numbers them, but really, for the sake of this. And I am going with my heart a little bit with 9, but also I do think they have been campaigning for it very well. It's my obvious favorite movie of the year. It's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I think if Sony had campaigned better in 2018-19 for Into the Spider-Verse, they could have also gotten a Best Picture nomination for it. They didn't have enough faith in that movie, which I still think is absurd, but they didn't know what they had. They did now, and I think releasing it in June has given it more of a benefit because they've had the entire second half of 2023 to promote the ever-living crap out of it. It's a critical darling. It did very well at the box office, and they've been playing the awards campaign very well. They've been making the rounds. It hasn't left the conversation, which is, I think, good for this because it is both a comic book movie and an animated movie, which I don't think should limit it, but that's always personal taste. But I do think they've been playing all the rounds. I think it's really Sony's only big contender this season. I'm trying to think of anything else, and I can't really think of anything else that has anywhere near as close of a shot as Across the Spider-Verse does. And I'm just, it's making the rounds. It's getting a re-release in theaters this weekend, which, Barbie and Oppenheimer are doing similar things. So, it is not a safe bet, but I have to put my foot in the ground about it. And also, I do think they have been doing the work. I think they've, and again, it helps that this is Sony's big movie, whereas like with Del Toro's Pinocchio last year, which was like one that people thought could break into Best Picture, Netflix, I don't think Netflix knew what they're prioritizing last year until later on with All Quiet on the Western Front. But here, Sony, they've known since June what they had, and and now that the strikes are over, the cast are promoting it. Like people are not forgetting about this movie, and I don't think Academy voters will either. And that leaves it up to number 10, which, again, that's an even bigger toss-up. I think Across the Spider-Verse has done the work. I think this next movie is, I've brought up a couple times of movies, where it's like the studio is like, it's their big pony. Universal has Oppenheimer, but then also through Focus, the holdovers, but those are still separate in a case. And also those are both firmly enough in the race. Whereas this, Warner Brothers is putting all their attention behind Barbie, and it could have an impact on this movie's chances. But I do think that the positive reception, the strong box office, and just its history with the Oscars, with its previous rendition, make The Color Purple a very strong contender for that number 10 slot. I mean, it just has, the package, Spielberg and Oprah producing it. And it's just, but it has had quite the impact. The people, like, I remember just the crowd that I saw it with, a couple days after released in December, and it, like, they reacted fervently to it. And I mean, it's a really hard movie to dislike. And I think that, I think it'd be the only really musical contender. I mean, depends on where you count Barbie with that. But there's a lot of movies vying for number 10. But for right now, I'm sticking with my gut, and I'm saying The Color Purple just because I think they are doing the campaign still very well, even though Warner Brothers is split between that and Barbie. Putting more chips in Barbie's table. But The Color Purple, it's still looking good. It's going to get a number of acting nominations in crafts categories. And it's just, it is still very much a contender. The honorable mentions that I didn't have written down, but are very much in the race are obviously some of the international contenders, being Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest. Those have a very serious shot of sneaking in. I mean, the international contingent of the Academy has been making itself known very largely in the last, really 5 years. Roma, Parasite, Drive My Car, you name it. The international branch of the Academy, the Academy has been going through quite a lot of changes over the last decade, really. And I think the international branch, becoming even more pronounced, has probably been the biggest one. So I think Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest, which I haven't seen either yet, but those movies are serious contenders. I believe it's, I'm trying to remember. I know it's Neon for one of them. I can't remember if it's both, maybe even both. Those movies have a very surefire chance to sneak in here. Those 9 and 10 slots are rarely open. I'm just trying to think of a couple other movies. In terms of other big director movies, I don't think Ferrari caught on enough steam. Napoleon didn't catch on with enough steam. All of Us Strangers and Origin are definitely indie darlings that are making the rounds in their circles. I don't know if they have quite enough momentum to get into the Best Picture race. And then, Saltburn. Saltburn is, I think, still going to crack into a couple categories, but I do think it is going to suffer from being an incredibly divisive movie with both critics, I would guess Academy voters, younger generations. Everybody has an opinion about Saltburn, which could lead to it getting a Best Picture nomination. it definitely has a dark horse chance, but I don't see it. I really did take to the movie, but I don't have it on right now. So that is my picks for best director, best picture. I was reading the next category. Break for commercial. And now we're moving on from best picture to best director. I know a lot of people will do the actor categories next. I like doing director. I don't know. It just feels like it's the I don't know. It's just a personal preference. My number one is probably it is one of the biggest locks for not only a nomination, but probably, I mean, not probably, definitely a win. As I mentioned before, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. I mean, I said it before, and I said it again. Again? Yeah, again, like I'm from the South there. Um, uh, Everybody is universally saying it's his time. The movie, I mean, it is a 3-hour rated R biopic and it made almost $1 billion at the box office. Everybody really loved the movie. Like, it is doing all the right things with the awards race. It's Nolan, and again, it's about damn time. I personally think that too. If I was an Academy voter, I wouldn't be able to say no to that. So I mean, Nolan for Oppenheimer. I mean, it's it's about damn time. Number two, I have again the Barbenheimer contingent, like a big wave raises all ships. I'm forgetting the exact metaphor at the moment, but Greta Gerwig for Barbie, I think she is also a very safe bet. I mean, obviously, technically, Oppenheimer is in a very different category, but Barbie is still a very impressive. That is a very hard movie to direct, and she pulled it off immensely well. Again, critically well received. People loved it. Did well at the box office. It's making all the right rounds of the awards season. She didn't get a nomination for Little Women, but she did for Lady Bird, and Barbie is easily her biggest movie. And I just don't see how they don't give her a nomination. I mean, she's a lock. Another one who I think is a lock at this point is Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things. I mean, personally, I thought he did a really great job directing the movie, and I think, again, it'll get that weird, quirky contingent of Academy voters. It's doing really well, making the rounds with the awards season. I think, I don't think he has a chance to win. I mean, I don't think Greta does either. I mean, I think Nolan is so far ahead, but Yorgos Lanthimos, I think, this movie's been in the conversation since really people have been talking about the Oscars. So I think he's a firm number 3. And I think 4 and 5 are the trickier ones. I'll go with what I have written down because this is one I haven't changed in a bit. I personally, I'm going with my heart here. I want Bradley Cooper for Maestro to get a Best Director nomination. He's a safe bet for acting, as we'll get into in a second. But he really, with this and A Star Is Born, he got snubbed hard with the directing nomination there, and he directed the ever-living shit out of this movie. It's still doing very well at the awards race. Director, I don't know if he's getting all the directing nominations, but he's still very much he's still very much contender for that. So right now I have him at 4. I think him being in Best Actor does help his chances here. So, and it's Netflix's big movie, so I think that helps it out. At number 5, I think this movie has gained a lot of steam with the Oscars race, and its recent release, I think, definitely does help. It is Cord Jefferson for American Fiction. I thought he did a very good job directing the movie, but it really has caught on fire in the awards race. It won the audience award at TIFF. People really connect with the movie. I'm looking at this list, and it's a pretty white list for the most part. So I definitely think that there will definitely I don't think people like seeing a completely white list of nominees. I mean, it's still a lot of old white men in the academy, but I think there will be enough of black and just everyone contingent to get Cord Jefferson a Best Director nomination. Again, these 4 and 5 spots, like that 9 and 10, are definitely a little bit more open to suggestions, really, for lack of a better way to put it. Obviously, in honorable mentions, I have Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, exactly for the same reasons. It's, I mean, just you say Martin Scorsese and directing a movie, and unless it's actually dog shit, he's in the contention. Alexander Payne for The Holdovers, because again, The Holdovers, very similar to American Fiction. It is doing all the right moves with the awards race. It is like connecting with voters and viewers. And it's a more subtle directing piece than like Killers of the Flower Moon or like Maestro or Poor Things. But it is still very well directed. Don't get him wrong. And I think because he didn't write the movie, and people very much associate it as an Alexander Payne movie, I think that definitely helps him out. I'm admittedly forgetting about the directors of, again, the international contenders, Anatomy of a Fall, Zone of Interest. Those movies have an incredibly strong shot at getting in here. Again, with the same reason for Best Picture. I don't know if I'm trying to think of other movies. Obviously, I would love to see Celine Song get in for Past Lives, but I think that's a long shot at this point. I would be incredibly happy to see it, but she definitely hasn't. I think attention has gone more towards screenplay for her, and I don't think The Color Purple has enough steam in directing, but it'll definitely get a lot of nominations again. So that's for Best Director. Break for commercial. All right, and now we move on to Best Actor. That's just the first one I have listed here. Wow, I really haven't touched this in a minute. I'm not like gonna change it, but in my head I'm gonna change it. Number 1 is Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer momentum is, a strong tide raises all ships. He's one of the contenders to win for this award. He is excellent in the movie. It's about damn time for his nomination, which is very much the case with a lot of the Best Actor contenders. It's about damn time. It'll be hard to say if, he'll get caught up in Oppenheimer going for so many different categories that, like some other movies, like, Oppenheimer is like going to be going for Best Picture, Director, editing, sound, cinematography, score. It is going to be going big for so many awards, including this one. But then I think, which makes it a safe nomination, it just makes it tricky whether or not a movie that has maybe a lesser shot at winning Best Picture could put more eggs behind the basket of Best Actor, which is why I'm moving him up to number 2, is Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. Really, at this point, it is seeming like a strong race between those two. I still feel very confident about these 5, actually, especially after the SAG nominations came out the other day. But Paul Giamatti, another actor that everybody feels it's about damn time. He is great in The Holdovers, he is a wonderful, wonderful character actor, as everybody knows, and very much akin to Gary Oldman. And I definitely think, like everybody really likes The Holdovers. It doesn't have a stronger shot as Best Picture. So I definitely think it helps Giamatti's chances. And again, it seems like the awards are leaning towards Murphy and Giamatti for this category. So that is why I have him now at my number 2. Right now I have at number 3, which was my number 1 at the time I wrote this, but I'm moving him down a little bit. But I still think he's a safe lock. Again, I mentioned for director, it is Bradley Cooper for Maestro. I mean, c'est la vie. What can you say? I mean, Bradley Cooper is he's becoming one of my favorite actors. Philly Strong, and he did a really wonderful job with this. For a second, it was seeming like he could be a contender to win, and there's still like a chance. Absolutely, there's still a chance for him to win, but I definitely am getting more heat behind Cillian Murphy and Paul Giamatti. But Bradley Cooper for Maestro is still, it is like, it's another, biopic, based off a famous musician. But, the way he directed and the way he performed it was very unique and still very powerful. Everybody points to the cathedral scene, again, c'est la vie. What can you say more? Number 4, another movie I've been talking about a lot, Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction. Jeffrey Wright is a terrific actor, and I think it's probably out of these 4 so far, it is the most understated performance. Easily, by far, it is the most understated performance, and I think it is very, I haven't been seeing him get snubbed in most races. American Fiction's doing very well. It just seems like, all the reasons I've been saying for American Fiction, just apply them here and just add on top of the fact that Jeffrey Wright is great in the movie. And then number 5, some people would think this is a bigger, contentious spot. But, just to get my horse in front of the cart, I don't think that's the right way to say it. Colman Domingo for Rustin. I do have the same 5 Best Actor nominations as the SAG Awards, and I think these are very, I feel very confident that this could be the 5 come Oscar nominations morning on the 22nd or 23rd, one of the 2. Colman Domingo, another actor who, terrific actor, I believe a Temple alum, which is pretty cool. Rustin is not catching on with Best Picture like a lot of these other movies are, but that does help his chances for Best Actor because they are absolutely putting all of the eggs behind his basket. I haven't seen it yet. I'm sure he's terrific, and him being in this and The Color Purple and having that collective, Colman Domingo is so great, which he really is, it definitely helps his chances. It's hard to say whether or not, he has a stronger shot here than in supporting actor, but who knows? Maybe he could upset and get a double acting nomination. I don't know if he'd win for either, but he's certainly in the running for this. Other honorable mentions, I'm running a blank. Leo for Killers of the Flower Moon because Leo. But I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I think out of the Killers of the Flower Moon 3, it's Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's always good, and he is good in the movie. I just think I think the acting attention is going more towards Lily Gladstone's direction in terms of just honoring one of the, all-timers with him and De Niro. I guess it's, for me, I feel like it's teetering a little bit more towards De Niro's direction. Leo could easily get in, but for right now, I don't have him in. I know All of Us Strangers is making a lot of noise in this category. One who I really would be happy to see that I'm hearing a lot of. It's not likely for a Best Picture nomination, but The Iron Claw and Zac Efron, I think, is absolutely fantastic, and I think is very deserving for this. And I don't know, I think if A24 plays their cards right, he could very well sneak in there as a surprise nomination. I think he really would be deserving of it. This 5, it's definitely hard to argue with this 5, but I think he's my dark horse contender for this category. Break for commercial. moving on to Best Actress. I don't know why I decided to sing that, but I did. It has been the same 1 and 2 for a while. I'll just say them both at the same time. Emma Stone for Poor Things and Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. Battle of the Stones. The Rolling Stones, yeah, maybe they could be a contender. Probably not, but that's besides the point. It is very much a close race between them. I have Emma Stone at 1 just because I think, I don't know, I guess that's probably just personal preference. She's a previous Oscar winner, which definitely helps her case. And it is very, like likely that she could win her second with this. And I think it would be incredibly deserving. She is absolutely phenomenal in the movie. It's just what she does with this character, Bella Baxter, is just absolutely outstanding. And again, it's Emma Stone. Everybody loves Emma Stone. And Poor Things, I think this is, Poor Things' biggest, shiny, look at here, chance of getting a nomination. But then again, so is Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, which I personally wish the movie centered more around her. But with what she is in the movie, and there was that initial surprise in the summer when it was announced that she was going to be in Best Actress and not Supporting Actress. But regardless, she's still making the rounds. She's it very much is a tat for tat battle with her and Emma Stone. She is very powerful with. It's a very big performance with Emma Stone in Poor Things versus an incredibly understated performance with Lily Gladstone and Killers. And I just think I did think she was great in the movie. And I definitely think she's deserving to be in lead. It is going to be a very tough race between those two. But they're easy locks for nominations, I think. Number 3, I have Carey Mulligan for Maestro. Again, Maestro is just very much getting. It's the same pattern as A Star Is Born in a lot of sense, and how it is a movie of it is a movie about a couple, and in this case, instead of Lady Gaga, it is Carey Mulligan, and I think she should have won for Promising Young Woman. I will, I love Frances McDormand, but I think Carey Mulligan really should have won for that year. And here she is fantastic in Maestro, and I don't think she has enough steam to really pull off an upset win, but she's been firmly in the race for quite a while, and I think people will just associate that and go, oh, okay, that's just Carey Mulligan, yeah, write it off. I think 4 and 5 are a little bit less certain than Best Actor, but I don't see how Margot Robbie doesn't get a nomination for Barbie. She's getting a nomination as a producer for Best Picture, regardless of what happens here. But I think she was snubbed for Babylon, which is a much more divisive movie. But I thought she was phenomenal in that. Maybe one of my favorite performances I've ever seen from her. But she is also wonderful in Barbie. Everyone's talking about Gosling, and we'll get to him later. And I love my Gosling. Don't get me wrong. But Margot Robbie is the glue of this movie. And yeah, she's wonderful. She really holds her own with the comedy, but then also she is the crux of the movie. The movie doesn't work if you don't believe this Barbie having an existential crisis. And she got on the SAG list. She's gonna be on a lot of other lists. I know some people just hesitate. Oh no, someone can get nominated for an acting nomination for playing Barbie. But the movie's getting a Best Picture nomination, so what can you do? I still think she is very safe. I think these 4 are pretty safe. I think Carey Mulligan has a chance to be snubbed. I wouldn't like to see that, but there's a chance it could happen. But I think, regardless, I think Margot Robbie's in very good hands. I think Carey Mulligan's in very good hands. And really, it's 5 that's the biggest question here. And right now, with Best Actor, I was 5 for 5 with the SAGs, and I think that'll continue through. With this, I don't think it'll carry over, because I do think Fantasia Barrino is going to get a nomination for The Color Purple. I think she was fantastic in the movie, and I think like with like a legacy part where previously this was played by Whoopi Goldberg, and it's like that's had a lot of impact before with remakes at the Academy. Two people, one playing Joker, two people, one playing Don Corleone. Like similar type of stuff, and I do think she is fantastic in the movie. I think The Color Purple will do very strong in both of the actress categories, because it is what the movie is about. The movie is about the women of the film, and I think Warner knows that. It probably knows that Color Purple isn't as safe a bet for winning Best Picture as like maybe Barbie would be, but which is why I think there's still a chance that her and Robbie could definitely get in. I think she is fantastic in the movie, so I definitely think, and I think she's been playing the cards right. I think it'll catch on with. I think the younger and the older contingent of the Academy will go for Fantasia for Color Purple. So I think she, maybe not as safe as 1 through 4, but still very. I'm saying firmly on my list, and I will be, I won't be surprised if I hear her name on Oscar nominations morning. Honorable mentions here, I think, is definitely a little bit more open to conversation. Annette Bening for Naiad. She was the one on the SAG list that I didn't have here, and I don't doubt she's great. Annette Bening is great. I know next to nothing about Naiad. I'm not going to lie. I haven't done a lot of research on that movie, but I don't think a lot of people know what Naiad is. And I think, obviously Academy voters are getting, bombarded with, so much on every awards movies, but I just am not hearing enough about this movie. Annette Bening is like the one thing that's her and Jodie Foster, the few things clinging on from that. But I don't know. I see more steam behind these 5 that I have on now. Obviously, again, Greta Lee for Past Lives. I would love to see her get in for this. I think she was fantastic in the movie. It's just, Past Lives, I'm scared that it's not going to get a lot of nominations, but it is still have a lot of love, and it definitely could lead to Greta Lee getting a nomination for it and for A24. I mean, they won last year with Michelle Yeoh, and to have I don't think there's a chance that she would win, but to have her following in the footsteps of Michelle Yeoh being the first Asian woman to win Best Actress, and then having Greta Lee get nominated the following year, I think would be very nice. I would love to see her get in. It's a tough 5 to crack, so that's hard to say. Natalie Portman for May December, although the contention has gotten more behind another person who I'll be talking about right now. I'm just going to get right into it with Best Supporting Actor. I think going back to director and picture, Rising Tide raises all ships. Barbenheimer are 1 and 2. Really, it just depends on who you have as 1, whether you have Gosling or Downey. Right now, it's just a little personal preference. I mean, he may be my man crush, but I do have Ryan Gosling as my number 1 for Best Supporting Actor, for easily for getting a nomination. I mean, the fact that he is in the conversation for playing Ken for an Oscar is simply outstanding. And I mean, you see the movie and it's just like shit. He really does deserve it. He gives it all out. I'm Just Ken is really iconic. It's very likely to get a song nomination. And, I think it's definitely a comedic performance that I think I haven't seen a lot of comedic acting performances get nominated the last couple of years. So I think him getting in and being a strong contender to win for this category very much helps him. And again, he's playing all the right cards, as is Downey for Oppenheimer. I mean, I know he just won Critics' Choice, and the award show that shall not be named. I mean, I also love Robert Downey Jr. I mean, I would have loved if he won an Oscar for playing Iron Man in any of the movies that he's, played Tony Stark. But I mean, it's like it was almost surprising that like Oppenheimer is such a huge ensemble, and out of all of them, it's Robert Downey Jr.'s character who isn't even involved with the actual creation of the atomic bomb, which really goes to show how much he acted his ass off. I mean, like he is one of the most crucial parts of the movie. He's playing all the races, right? Everybody loves Robert Downey Jr. I mean, and it is really a battle between them, and I will not be upset at all if Robert Downey Jr. does win this award, and I do think he's very deserving. I think both of them are. Like, sometimes it's like, can I give 2 Oscars out? Can we call it a tie? Can we? It's cheating, but I don't care. Next up, for number 3, going with from Ryan to Robert to another Robert, with De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, again, De Niro, Martin Scorsese, duh. I do genuinely think he was fantastic in the movie. I mean, people, like with The Irishman, people are saying it's the best he's been in years. And yeah, I mean, he is genuinely great in the movie. I mean, it's hard to deny it. It's Robert freaking De Niro. I mean, how can you deny that power? I think more of the attention is going towards his way over Leo. And Lily Gladstone, definitely. I think he has still, I think if it's between De Niro and DiCaprio, I think De Niro gets it, because I remember very firmly a lot of the moments with De Niro, maybe less so with DiCaprio. Again, that's just personal preference, but I guess at this point, there's a lot of actors fighting on the bubble for supporting actor, so that's why he's my number 3, because he's De Niro. 4 is another likely safe bet, although he wasn't included on the SAG list in favor for another actor from this movie, Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. He is genuinely fantastic in the movie. It is a very unique performance from him, and just in general, I mean, he has a lot of very memorable moments in this movie, and he really owns it. I don't think he has a chance at confronting Gosling or Downey, but I think in a different year he very well could have a shot, but it is a very tough year, and it is very likely that there could be 2 Poor Things nominations for supporting actor. That is a very likely possibility. I think out of the movies to get 2 acting nominations in one category, I think Poor Things for this category is probably the best one. I think Mark Ruffalo has a very good shot there. I think he has a slight edge over Dafoe, even though Dafoe got in on the SAG list. And, I love Dafoe in the movie as well, and Dafoe in general. But I think it's been a little bit longer since Ruffalo has gotten awards attention, and I think they're leaning a little bit more in his favor. So I think he has a stronger shot at getting in. And 5, there is a lot of people in contention for this. Right now, I have really as the most notable one for this movie is Charles Melton for May December. I've yet to see it personally, but the fact that he is getting more steam than Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore, I think says a lot. Yeah. I don't know why I said it like that. That sounded so bad. I'm so sorry. But I mean, yeah, the fact that Charles Melton is he's fairly an unknown for the most part. I can't think of anything else he's been in, but the fact that he's stealing attention away from A-listers like Portman and Moore for this movie. I mean, May December isn't gonna, it isn't doesn't have great chances with a lot of categories that I think a lot of people thought it would, just off the, package of it. But he's one of the things that people seem to have circulated around, and I think because I think it could be the one chance to get May December in definitively, and I think that is why he could very much pull in. A lot of honorable mentions here. Obviously, again, Willem Dafoe for Poor Things. I mean, it could very well be a double Poor Things roundup here in supporting actor. I think uh, I personally think Dominic Sessa would be very deserving for the holdovers, but I think in terms of like more of the attention is going towards Giamatti and the other actor for Poor Things. Not Poor Things, the holdovers. Jesus. But I do think he was fantastic in the movie. I think he has. I mean, a lot of people have a shot here. Sterling K. Brown, he got in on the SAG list, and he is great for the movie. I mean, he's like, yeah. I mean, he has another great shot too. American Fiction is really catching on right now. And again, if The Color Purple really catches on with the Academy, I really think there's a good chance that Coleman Domingo could get a nomination here, and could get a double acting nomination here. I really think he is deserving with The Color Purple. I still haven't seen Rustin yet, but I mean, Coleman Domingo is a fantastic actor. I think he should have gotten nominated for, what's the movie based off of Twitter? Is it? I'll remember it later, I'm sure. But Coleman Domingo, absolutely fantastic. There's a chance he could get in for The Color Purple as well. I'm sure there's a couple of people I'm forgetting, but for the sake of time, let's move on. Best Supporting Actress, I think, has out of the acting categories, it is probably the safest lock. Divine Joy Randolph for the holdovers. She is definitely a Temple alum, and I'm happy to say that she is the front runner to win this award. I think just everybody, just since people have seen this movie, have been talking about Divine Joy Randolph, and you see the movie and you're like, okay, yeah, Divine Joy Randolph. I mean, there's a lot of things to talk about with the holdovers, but like, I think, whereas Giamatti is rising and is definitely a 1-2 with Cillian Murphy, I just think the supporting actress, she's so far ahead of the competition. I think she, out of the acting categories, I think is the biggest, lock to get a nomination and win. I think people would be like, last year I was angry that Till and Woman King didn't get in for Best Actress, and I think people would be furious here if she didn't get in for the whole holdovers. I mean, she's gonna win. Like, Viola Davis and Till. This is what happens when you're talking for so long. I'm forgetting her name. I will remember it later. They didn't have as big of chances winning last year, but Divine Joy Randolph, I think it's a lock. She's getting in. She's gonna probably win. And she's very deserving. She's wonderful in the movie. She will make your heart warm and melt at the same time. Well, that's the same thing. Besides the point. Number 2, I saw a couple people say that she could win, and I think it's possible. Although I still think Divine Joy Randolph has like bigger chances. Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple. I definitely think she has more firm position than Fantasia, and I think out of the actors for that movie, she has the best shot. Just because I think The Color Purple has a very prominent ensemble, and I think it'd be very hard to ignore at least one of them. And I think Danielle Brooks has the best shot, and she is fantastic in the movie. Again, playing a legacy character with Oscars, and Oscars voters could remember that. She's very good in the movie. WB is campaigning very well for her here. She's getting in. And then definitely a little bit more contentious after that point. Right now, I have America Ferrera for 3 for Barbie, and I mean, the monologue alone. I genuinely think the monologue alone could. I mean, everybody's talking about the monologue, and like, yeah, it's like people are like, oh, well, it's just one moment. She is great in the rest of the movie too, but that monologue alone has become a cultural touchstone. Like take, even if Barbie wasn't as successful, I guarantee you that monologue alone just encapsulates such. It is very much just, it crosses over from pop culture and just being culturally relevant. I think she's fantastic in the movie. I don't know why early awards contenders in like the summer were thinking that she could get in for Dumb Money, which, Dumb Money's good and she's fine in that. But like here, I mean, with the monologue, I mean, it's America Ferrera for Barbie. I mean, I love her in the movie. I love Barbie. I think she's getting it. Right now for 4, I have Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer. Even though I don't think, obviously people have criticized Nolan for, his utilization of women in his films before. And, I don't think Oppenheimer is an exception to that. But with that said, Emily Blunt is still fantastic in the movie. I mean, she's Emily freaking Blunt. I mean, I don't think she's gotten a nomination up until this point. She didn't get in for Mary Poppins Returns. I don't think she's gotten in before, which is still very surprising. And that is very, wow. Yeah, she hasn't gotten in. I mean, and again, the Oppenheimer team. I mean, Barbenheimer, I think, has very strong chances with this category, which is why I think she's firmly in at 4. 5, again, a little bit more open, but I think Jodie Foster for Nyad, I do think, I think she could be the one actor from Nyad to cross over. Again, I don't think Nyad is catching on as much as these other movies are with, it's not a Best Picture contender at all. But Jodie Foster, I mean, everybody loves Jodie Foster. I mean, she's an Academy Award winner before, and I think she could very well secure herself another nomination here. There's a lot of people vying for the 5 spot. I'm just going to run over honorable mentions real quick here. Rachel McAdams for Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. I will bang that drum till the day I die. I love Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. I adore that movie so much. And I thought since I saw it in May that she should get a nomination for that movie. And she has so much heart and soul in that movie. And I'm glad it's catching on. That it is Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. It's one of the few categories that it has a strong shot. And I'm still very happy to say that Julianne Moore for Merry December very well could crack in because, again, it's Julianne Moore. What can you expect? Oscar packaging movie. A movie that I think was a big awards contender at one point in time and then definitely fell off a cliff. But I still think Viola Davis for Air. I think she is the best part of that movie. I think she's phenomenal there. I mean, everybody loves Viola Davis. It could be a little bit of anger after getting snubbed from The Woman King. It's definitely a little bit more of a long shot since Air has lost a lot of steam, no pun intended. But it's still probably one of Air's biggest shots. And I think she could sneak in there along with Rosamund Pike for Saltburn. Again, Saltburn isn't going to get a ton of nominations, but it is. But Rosamund Pike was fantastic in the movie, and people do love Rosamund Pike. So I think she has a chance to sneak in. Break for commercial. Whew. Oh, man, we've been here a while. How are you guys doing? You have a drink while you're watching this? Listening. Let me know. I mean, this is a little bit more of a casual one as opposed to my reviews or some of the other discussions or whatever. But, I hope you've been enjoying it. I mean, the Oscars are never perfect, but I still love this time of year. I mean, I guess I was young enough and just idolized it as the film equivalent of the Super Bowl. And really, it still has that place in my heart. And it's still, huge in the industry. So, I hope you've been enjoying this video so far. I'm definitely going to be a lot quicker with the rest of the nominations that I go over. If anything, I'm just worried about phone storage at this point. But I definitely do want to touch on the screenplay categories at the very least. Wow, I guess I still didn't touch this. That original screenplay, for the longest time before it was officially announced what category it was in, I had Barbie at 1 for both original and adapted because I thought no matter what, it's a lock for a nomination, whatever it is considered by, and whichever category it is in, I think Barbie is a shoo-in to win. I'm seeing like, not a lot of people think that. I mean, when it was an original, like people were thinking Holdovers, Past Lives could still get in over it. And it's like, yeah, but like, Barbie. I mean, I like Barbie. Like, how do you pull that off and have it do so well? And again, it's a lot of the case where like with, Best Picture, where it's like they'll give one movie director and another movie, the other movie's screenplay, whichever screenplay category it's in. And I think with Barbenheimer, I think it'd be impossible to ignore. Uh, Now it is definitively by the Academy an adapted screenplay. It is like, I mean, it's like, I don't want to even get into the debate with that. I mean, I get it either way. I guess I'll just start with that then. Barbie, an adapted screenplay. I think it is winning. I mean, Nolan, it's about damn time for him, but also like people love Greta Gerwig, and I honestly don't think just giving her a Best Picture nomination on top of the writing nom will be enough. Like, I think her and Noah Baumbach, it'll be funny for him, like after like really dramatic movies like, Marriage Story, to win for Barbie. But I mean, Barbie's still, I mean, again, it's still incredibly powerful. I think it is a sure lock to win. Really, these first four that I have listed are very much very sure things to get nominations. To Oppenheimer, Nolan. Again, a very interesting screenplay since I believe he wrote it in the first person, which is a very interesting choice. And it could be a rising tide raises all ships with Oppenheimer. But I mean, I just think like people are thinking so much him director wise. I'm not sure it'll translate to screenplay. I think they'll want to reward something else. If not Barbie, which I really do think Barbie is going to win this award. I do think Poor Things could. Yorgos Lanthimos, it was based off a book. I haven't read the book. I don't read much. Confession time. Here's what I got. I don't read. But I mean, same thing I mentioned with director and the movie as a whole. He's pretty safe here. I mean, people really like his work. He's the weird guy right now in the awards race, and I think he has a dark horse chance at winning this category. Right up next, I have American Fiction, because again, all the reasons I've been saying before. I believe Cord Jefferson wrote this movie as well, and I mean, did a very good job about it. I mean, it's a movie about writers, for writers, and a lot of other things too. But I mean, the Academy loves loving themselves, for lack of a dirtier way to put it. But it's definitely, I mean, it's same reasons I've been saying with American Fiction. It is picking up a lot of steam. I think it is a sure lock for nomination and adapted screenplay. And then I think the five, I have six written down here because of when I had Barbie. But if anything, just to give myself a safe place, just in case for whatever category it got deemed under. So right now for five, I'm going with my heart here again, and I'm going Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, Killers of the Flower Moon is my number 6. It is my first honorable mention, but I think Across the Spider-Verse, I mean, with the visuals, it is outstanding genius, but I think the screenplay too. I mean, Lord and Miller are absolute geniuses, and I think both Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse are movies that should not work, and they absolutely do, and then some. It just tackles on so much, and it makes it so accessible and so funny and lovable. And again, Across the Spider-Verse is playing its cards really, really well right now. I'm feeling really good about its chances. I mean, I know I'm incredibly biased, and I'm being, a bit of, if anything, I'm trying to manifest it here by putting it in 5 for adapted screenplay. But yep, that's it, folks. It's getting in. It's getting in. Please. All right. Honorable mentions again: Killers of the Flower Moon. Same reasons I mentioned before. Zone of Interest. Is definitely a big contender since it is an again, one of the big international contenders. It could get into Best Picture, and it has a very good shot here. I can't remember if Anatomy of a Fall is adapted or original. I, honest to God, don't know. Okay, I have it on original. Okay, I guess I'll just get to that then. So now that Barbie is on adapted, I have right now at number one, and a very likely chance to win, is The Holdovers. I mean, it is a very original movie. I think it is a movie I do think will become a Christmas classic. I really do. I mean, and it is just very much a writer's movie with like very strong dialogue, very good story structure, very like, as one of my inspirations, Matt Nose, used to say, meat and potatoes. It's a very good meat and potatoes movie, but I mean, I'm forgetting the name of the writer right now. I think he might be named Alex, which I like that guy. But The Holdovers has a very good shot. There's a very good. I don't think it's as strong of a lock as Divine Joy Randolph, but it's like Giamatti, where it's like very much like they're going to be like going at it. Like it's one of the big contenders for original screenplay. I think the next runner up, and I think what I think could win, because I think where The Holdovers is going to win a Oscar. Other movies are going to win a Oscar. I think it is this movie's biggest chance to win anything. I mentioned with director before, Celine Song for Past Lives. It is an absolutely original screenplay. It is a touching movie. I mean, again, I can't stress that enough. That is like anybody who sees that movie and doesn't get emotional, I really question your humanity. I don't do that lightly, so watch out. I think she wrote a wonderful movie here. I think A24 knows that the movie, it's not going to get a lot of nominations, which is, to me, sad. I mean, I think I didn't even mention it for actor and supporting actor. But I think Past Lives, like, it is a purely original screenplay. And I think it could be the way the Academy decides to reward this movie, and it is an easy lock for a nomination at the very least. Maestro is my number 3. Same reasons I mentioned before. Bradley Cooper, he did a great job. It wasn't based off anything. I mean, he did it with, I'm forgetting his name, but he's written a lot of Oscar pieces movie. Josh Singer. That's it. They wrote a wonderful screenplay here. I think it'll get him a nomination. Right now I have 4. I have Anatomy of a Fall. Again, I really don't know much about this movie, but it is one of the big international contenders, and I don't think they can't crack any of the directing and screenplay categories. So I think at the very least, Anatomy of a Fall getting a screenplay nomination, I think that will very much be good for the international contingent. And again, a very flexible 5 spot per usual. I have Saltburn. It is a purely original movie. It's Emerald Fennell coming back for the, this same award that she won for Promising Young Woman. And I think it is a very good shot. Like, the divisiveness, I think, could be a little bit too much for it to get a Best Picture nomination. But for Best Original Screenplay, I don't know. I think that'll be hard to ignore. The 2 honorable mentions I have listed here are May December, Air. I don't know if The Iron Claw is based off of anything. I feel like it might be original. There's a lot of movies that are on the bubble here, so those movies could easily sneak in at the 5 spot. I mean, it's 3 that are very confident, 1 that's pretty confident, and then 1 that's very much like pick your dark horse, darling. And I'm gonna say Saltburn. I think this is the case where the divisiveness is helping Saltburn, and I think it could help get Emerald Fennell her another Oscar nomination for Saltburn. Break for commercial. And some people don't consider screenplay categories part of the major awards, like the above the line or the big ones. I do personally. So I guess that covers it for that. Cinematography, I'm gonna go a little bit quicker with a lot of these other ones. Personally, I guess I've been talking to myself quite a while. Um, uh, so cinematography, obviously, front runners are Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer. I mean, it's probably gonna win this award. I mean, say no more. The movie's beautiful. I mean, shots that I don't know how you get that. Same thing with Poor Things. Poor Things is a stunning movie, aesthetic. I think its aesthetic could get an Oscar in another category, but it's easily another contender for cinematography. I also have Saltburn here. Actually considering the Saltburn train, I think this is another area that Saltburn could crack into. I thought Saltburn, that was one of the first things I thought while I was watching the movie for the first time, is that the movie is beautiful. It is such a beautiful movie. I mean, 4x3, it is like shots that are really mystifying, which is a really good way to describe Saltburn in a nutshell. Just I think it's a beautiful movie, and I think it is probably just one of its best chances with the Oscars race right now. So I do think it will get in. The other two that I have for 4 and 5 are more safer nominations. Maestro, Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, both are very good, beautiful movies. I really take to Maestro again, but Killers of the Flower Moon still very strong. Scorsese, all that jazz. Color mentions. You can tell one of mine is The Color Purple. Barbie again could very well sneak in. It's better cinematography. I think people give it credit for, especially since out of the things that people are comparing Barbenheimer with, Oppenheimer visually is just wow, and Barbie, the writing, wow. But the cinematography is really good in Barbie. I mean, I watched a couple of videos and the subtle things that they do with the cinematography. And again, it's going to get a lot of nominations, and it could help it get in for cinematography. And going on to editing, Oppenheimer, duh. It's probably going to win. Barbie, duh. If it doesn't, it's not going to win likely because Oppenheimer is such a technical movie, but it is very much a contender to get in. Poor Things, duh. The Holdovers, duh. I think The Holdovers is very much the subtler type editing, whereas the 3, Oppenheimer, Barbie, Poor Things, have very expressionistic editing. The Holdovers is a lot more subtle and calmed down. I think that could help its chances. And Maestro, that's a little bit more expressionistic. I think it could help that get in. There's definitely a lot of contenders here. Killers of the Flower Moon, obviously. Anatomy of a Fall, I have been seeing on a number of lists. I think Across the Spider-Verse really should be a contender here. This is one that I'm not sure it'll crack in, but the editing, on top of a lot of different things with the Spider-Verse, how do you edit and piece together all the different things with that movie? It's just phenomenal, and I think it should be really in the conversation. Production design, I do think this is, if Emma Stone doesn't win for Poor Things, I do think production design, it could very well win for Poor Things. When I saw Barbie at first, I was oh yeah, that's easy to win for production design, but then I saw Poor Things, and it's shit, and they're both contenders for costume as well. Oppenheimer, Color Purple, Maestro, standard stuff. Hair and makeup, I guess it gets a little bit more interesting. I did some research for this. I have Maestro, which will be odd since I know there's a bit of controversy with the nose, although I think people have generally forgot about it. And honestly, I think now that people have really seen the movie in full and have seen the makeup and just, it's very encompassing of the time. Even if it doesn't get a Best Actor win for Bradley Cooper, I think just this could very well be people remember how the characters look in Maestro. So I think that could help. Same with Poor Things. Again, very expressionistic, which is a category that hair and makeup very well plays to. Technical difficulties. Whoops! Hello, hello. Apologies about the technical difficulties. I'm clearly having some storage issues on my phone. I was getting there. I had 6 categories left, and then it just got, I just got just so close, so close. But it's just took me a day or two, just because by the time I was done recording it the other day, I was dead exhausted, and it's just been semester starting back up, so it's just getting back into the flow of things. But I'm gonna pick up right where we left off. We don't even have that much left to go. Again, I was counting the category I was in the middle in. We had 6 major 6 categories to talk about. So I was in the middle of, if I'm not mistaken, best hair and makeup. And I'm sure I already discussed Maestro and Poor Things as my 1 and 2, and I think those are pretty obvious. They're going to be in the race for many different awards. So obviously they have a very strong shot here. My number 3, and I believe this is where I was cut off the other day, is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I'm very happy to see in the running, because I saw it swept a lot of nominations at the Hair and Makeup Society the other day, and it kind of, until then, I kind of forgot about it as a contender for this category, but it makes sense. I mean, I remember the first movie getting a nomination for that category along with VFX. I don't think the second movie did, but still, it makes a lot of sense for the Guardians movies to get a hair and makeup nom. I mean, it just shows on the screen, and I think it'll be. Plus, it's probably Poor Things is, I guess, more steampunk sci-fi, if you will, but it's like Guardians of the Galaxy is hardcore sci-fi, so I think it definitely fulfills a certain niche. Niche. I'm not going nihilist here. Niche with this branch in the hair and makeup department. Assuming it goes to 5, because I know hair and makeup can sometimes do even less, like 3, which is always a bit surprising. My number 4 is a movie that I honestly have heard next to nothing about, except that it was on a lot of other pundits' predictions list, and that is Golda. I don't know. I know nothing about this movie, but it's on a lot of lists, so I have to at least give it some consideration there. I mean, it makes sense in categories like this, in costumes. There's always a couple movies that are very much are good at what they do. It's just I haven't seen them. Not a lot of people have heard about them, but amongst the community, a lot of people have. And then next up, I have Oppenheimer, because it's Oppenheimer. I mean, what can you expect? Oppenheimer is, again, going to sweep so many things. Honorable mentions, I wish Evil Dead Rise had a shot. I'm looking at the poster right now, and I'm just but that for horror to get in, let alone an Evil Dead movie, that would be a massive stretch. Trying to think of any notable honorable mentions. I guess maybe The Holdovers, maybe with the eye prosthetic. Really trying to think of a lot of other movies that use heavy hair and makeup. Obviously, Barbie should be in consideration for this, but it wasn't on the short list, weirdly enough, because I don't know, the short lists always confuse me, but I don't think they've ever broken the short list, so I'm not gonna stick away from it. I'm sure there will be a couple other movies that are in contention for this, but for now, that's my 5 for hair and makeup. And in a similar branch, costume design, where Barbie wasn't snubbed on the short list, and it is my number 1 there. And I mean, Poor Things is still my number 2, don't get me wrong. I do think Poor Things still has a very good shot at winning this category. I mean, again, hair and makeup and production design are categories that Poor Things and Barbie are very much in tandem with, again, aside from the snub with Barbie and hair and makeup. But I think Poor Things could take production design and costumes for Barbie. I think it really should win. I mean, it is very integral to the core of what Barbie is in the movie, and I think that will get recognized just with the sheer variety of costume design and how it's contemporary and also classic. It's a very good mix, and it's just the amount of pink. Yeah, the iconic sweatshirt, obviously, I am Knuff. But, again, it'll be a tough race between that and Poor Things. I mean, those two are going to be, for a lot of the crafts categories, are going to be battling it out. But I do have Barbie just above it for now. But they're both definitely getting nominated, as is, I think, The Color Purple, because there is a certain element of costume design in the movie's plot, which the Academy always does, like acknowledging. I mean, Cruella won, deservedly so, the year it came out, and it's not a movie that was up for other Oscars, but it's a movie about costume design, and there you go. And it's also a period piece, a musical, and it is very good. I think in terms of like black representation with costume design, they always like to give a little bit of love there. And I mean, Wakanda Forever won again for, it's like, oh, why am I forgetting her name? She's amazing. I'm gonna, I gotta look it up. I'm sorry. I would be remiss if I forgot her name because, I mean, with the first film and Black Panther and just her career in general, I would be remiss if I forgot her name. Ruthie Carter. There we go. I apologize profusely. She is so deserving of her Oscar last year, and I think The Color Purple kind of, again, fulfills that certain thing. I mean, the Oscars have definitely gotten a lot better about diversity. Still not perfect, nowhere near perfect, but costume design, I think, is always an area where they will get recognized, and I think it fulfills a certain category. I think all of these movies kind of do. Killers of the Flower Moon I have next at 4. Again, just because it's a, Martin Scorsese, a period piece. I mean, it's not even what the white people wear, to be completely honest, because, I mean, that's just standard period piece white people affair. I mean, it just is. It's the indigenous outfits of the film, and I would hope that they had indigenous, if not on the costume design team, at least heavily consulting it. And I do remember those outfits very well from the movie. It definitely was one of the things that I think did add to the town, which I kind of was lacking in a lot of other areas. But yeah, I mean, it's also just Killers of the Flower Moon. It's still gonna get a lot of nominations. And then 5 is definitely a little bit more of a jump, but I am giving Wonka a nod because I do think it had very good costume designs. It's I think Poor Things, it's kind of British, but not really. It's more like, I mean, Poor Things is very stylized, whereas Wonka is, and it's still stylized, but it's just very much like classic British iconography. It's family film, it's a musical. It has very memorable costumes. I remember what each of the characters look like just from their costumes alone. And I think the box office doing well for that could definitely help give it some support in this category. I wish Wonka was more of a contender with the original song. I've been listening to the soundtrack nonstop lately, and I really did love the movie, but I think it could still sneak in here. Other honorable mentions are obviously Maestro and Oppenheimer, again, just part of the Oscars package, if you will, with those movies, and solid costume design in general. Another one that did surprise me that was on some predictions lists, and I'm not disappointed with this at all, is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Again, I adored this movie so much. It is one of my favorite movies of the year, along with Maestro and Oppenheimer and Wonka and Barbie and Poor Things. But it's very much it's one of the more contemporary pieces, but like still a period piece. and contemporary 70s. So I definitely do think that could fulfill a certain niche. And I mean, I do remember the costumes well enough in that. I don't, I think if I'm not mistaken, I need to do more research on this to that nom that the costume designers for it have gotten nominations, if not wins, in the past. So I mean, that could very well help them in their favor. So yeah, those are my picks for costume design. And then sound, I think, has the easiest front runner and winner. Again, Oppenheimer. I mean, it's like, what do you expect? I mean, thank God it's much better than Tenet, which is not, I mean, that's pretty easy, but it is waves and waves above Tenet. I believe Dunkirk did win sound the uh, previous time Nolan, did a more period piece film. And I mean, it shows. I mean, just, you can't have that movie without the sound working. And it just does. It works. It does sound amazing. And it's my number one to get nominated, and is probably going to win. Maestro is my number two. I don't think it really has a chance of surprising, but it is a film about a musician, about an orchestra, and they do a lot of creative things with it. There's just a nice texture to the audio design in the film, and I think that'll definitely get rewarded by the Academy. And again, the sound department, and it's just, it's in the races for everything else. And especially since, the music is Leonard Bernstein's music, and I think they'll give a nod to that in that regard. Number three is definitely like a tad surprising given how it had some issues with its sound mixing during its initial theatrical run, but I still think the sound design and eventually the mixing for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is like easily outstanding. I mean, again, what say no more on how I feel about the movie. I really do think the sound elevated it quite a lot, and I think Spider-Verse is doing very well in the technical categories outside of animation and a lot of the award shows and guilds. So I think it does lend well to its favor. Same with Barbie, which is, again, I mean, it's definitely the most, well, Across the Spider-Verse has a lot of cartoony elements, but it just combines a lot else, whereas Barbie feels very much like it's it's really the only straight comedy. It's really the only comedy in contention here, and it just has just a lot of personality with the sound. It's just, and yeah, I mean, it's Barbie. It's part of the Barbenheimer collective. It's probably going to get a nomination there. And then five, you can never discount a good Vroom Vroom movie, is Ferrari. I mean, Michael Mann's Ferrari is not doing great in a lot of other circles with, Best Picture, Director. Is really not getting those awards. I've heard it's fine. I've heard the movie is solid. Penelope Cruz did get that surprise SAG nomination, so I guess that does boost her chances up. But in general, I think it'll be hard for the Academy to ignore a movie with cars and racing. I think that's just usually, I mean, it's like how Top Gun won sound last year with all the vroom vroom planes. It's just they always love giving a nod to that, and I think they will do that with Ferrari. Some of the honorable mentions are, oddly enough, I saw, not oddly enough, but I saw The Killer, David Fincher's The Killer, on a lot of lists, and it did have good sound. I will give it credit for that. So I'll definitely, I mean, I don't know if it will crack the race, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me too much. Another a contender for VFX that I'll get into in a second, The Creator, just because a lot of times VFX and sound often go hand in hand. And then The Color Purple, because it is really the only major musical outside of Barbie, if you count that, in contention for sound. But let's get right into visual effects, and just to start off with the one I just mentioned before, at number one is The Creator. I did love this movie. It is another one of my favorites of the year. I think it's supremely underrated. Gareth Evans knocked it out of the park here for me personally, and the effects were outstanding. It was less than $100 million budget, and it looked absolutely outstanding with the large scale effects and just the design of how the AI is in the movie. The robotic designs, it looked amazing. It really did. And I think just because it's crisp, it's polished, it's original, and I do think VFX do tend to go for that in this category because they can go with quite a lot of odd choices at points. I mean, I believe it's like the year The Force Awakens came out, everybody was surprised that Ex Machina took it. But I mean, not that everybody was disappointed, but it was certainly like The Return of Star Wars versus Ex Machina, which is a lot subtler. And The Creator is still certainly a big movie, it is. But I think it's very like crisp and polished. And I think that, I mean, it'll be very deserving win. What I do think would also be a deserving win at my number 2 is, the yearly Marvel VFX nod. That would be Guardians 3 again. And I mean, honestly, I really wouldn't be disappointed if it won because the VFX in the Guardians movies, particularly Volume 3, are outstanding. I mean, those movies do not work if you don't believe that Rocket Raccoon is real, especially in the case of Volume 3. And it's phenomenal. It really is. It blends well with the live action in so many areas. It looks amazing. I mean, Marvel, I'm glad the VFX unions at Marvel are starting to unionize, and just VFX unions in general, because VFX workers are infamously overlooked and overworked, all that jazz. But their work with Guardians 3 will still get rewarded. James Gunn does not rush, especially given the circumstances with that release. In the more creative sense, and I didn't even think that this was going to be a contender until I saw it on lists, but hey, Across the Spider-Verse is another contender here. That's my number 3, and I'm seeing it on the list, and I'm not complaining because there are so many visual effects going on. I mean, I guess if there's a category for best animation, I guess VFX really does come closest. I mean, Avatar, speaks for itself, but Across the Spider-Verse is doing so much. I mean, from a creative experimental standpoint, I think Across the Spider-Verse should take this and run away with it. But it's still very much, the creator definitely has more momentum so far in the category, but Across the Spider-Verse will easily get in. I mean, stop motion films have gotten in before. I remember Kubo and the Two Strings got in the year it came out. And Del Toro's Pinocchio was in the conversation last year. And Across the Spider-Verse there's definitely some stop motion with the Lego segment. Congrats to that 14-year-old kid. He could be an Oscar nominee for all I know. But it is absolutely it's a worthy nomination. Those 3 are locks to get nominated. The Creator, Guardians 3, and Across the Spider-Verse. 4 is, I think, a movie that has kind of snuck up towards the ending of the year as like a surprise of 2023. And I do think this category is really the one place where the Academy will reward the movie, because I don't think it's making the right, it's not getting a lot of attention in the awards shows for major categories, even though it's on a lot of people's top lists. But I think this is a place where the Academy could reward it, and that is Godzilla -1. Because, I mean, to be blunt, I've never seen a Godzilla movie before this, US or Japanese, and I mean, it was great. It really, word of mouth really did live up to it. I mean, I can't remember if it cracked my best of list, but it really was a genuinely great movie. And although I don't think the effects are always polished, kind of like RRR, I could definitely tell in some areas that, of what's CG or what's a green screen, but it's less about the polish of it, and it's more just about the creativity. The effects look great, especially with Godzilla. The creature design for this version of Godzilla is absolutely outstanding. The way scales move, the way the city, and just across the board, I think it really does look great from a creative standpoint. And just with the huge word of mouth, I think it'll be hard to ignore this movie in general. So I do think it can crack into VFX. And then number 5 is definitely, again, a little bit more of an open one. So I'm going to go with a little bit more of a safer pick, and that would be Indiana Jones and the Dials of Destiny. Namely for the VFX with Harrison Ford's de-aging. It did look very good. I saw it twice, and it did look very good with the de-aging. And the effects everywhere else looked solid. I mean, it's ILM. What do you expect? I think they've just, if a movie does well with de-aging, I think it usually can score a VFX nod. So I think it can here. Some honorable mentions, I didn't write them down, but obviously Barbie could be a contender. Wonka, the new Transformers movie. I mean, I heard it was decent, and those movies always do have pretty strong effects, although I feel like they haven't gotten acknowledged in a while. So that could be contention. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that Weta has done, the Avatar and Apes VFX studio, and I can't think of anything. Maybe they worked on The Creator. I don't know, but I mean, there's definitely a number of other big movies that could crack in there. Oppenheimer wasn't on the short list. That was another snub. And if it was a perfect world and movies that weren't on the short list could crack in there, then obviously Oppenheimer. Just practically, how did they do that? But alas, that's how it is, and those are my picks for VFX. Moving on to original song, and I mean there are going to be at least 2, if not 3, to be completely honest, for Barbie. I do have 2 on here for now, and those are right now it really is. I mean, it's the ones that I think from since July. I think these 2 have been really the front runner of the category. It's what was I made for, and I'm Just Ken. What was I made for, or what I was made for? I can't remember. It's grammar, semantics. But both those songs are, I think, locks to get nominations. I mean, and very deservedly so. I mean, I'm Just Ken was, I think, my top on my Wrapped playlist, just because that song is just so endlessly fun. It's outstanding, and I believe it's Mark Rylance and Andrew Wyatt. Hopefully I got that right. I'm not going to fact check that. But I mean, they wrote all the songs for the movie, and all of them really excelled. I do think it will be their second Oscar alongside Billie Eilish, because I think I'm Just Ken is incredibly fun, and I cannot wait to see that performed live on stage with Ryan Gosling. I'm really so excited about that. I think that alone will probably get it a nomination, but I do think Billie Eilish, with the impact that song leaves with you in the movie, and I think it has affected voters in that regard, and it's Billie Eilish. I mean, it's the full circle. I think those 2 songs are locks, and I do think it'll edge towards Billie's way. Next up, and this is probably a little bit of Spider-Man bias, but I do have Am I Dreaming from Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, I always liked the songs okay in the first Spider-Verse, but I always listen to the score more, obviously. But Am I Dreaming, when it came up during the credits, I do remember just a very like damn, it's just one of those impactful credit songs, and I really do think it has a good effect. And I think just because the we'll get to in a second, score is it is doing very well there, and I think that could also bleed into song. And it is a very popular song. Spider-Verse is doing very well in all the circuits. So I do think it could get a nomination here. Next up, I also have the one of the original songs from The Color Purple. I believe it's I think Workin' and Keep It Movin' are the 2 that are eligible, because they're the original songs for the movie. Right now, I have Keep It Moving on there just because it's just, I don't know, it just has that more classical musical feel there. And I think it'll be hard to, again, it's a musical. I don't see how it gets ignored here in Best Original Song. And it is a great song. If there are others, if it wasn't, based off a Broadway musical, there'd be so many songs that would be eligible for the movie. It's a great musical, but I do think that song is pretty safe. If anything, I'd probably say for them Spider-Man, if I'm going to be honest, but that's just how I have it ranked for now. And then next up, I have, and I haven't heard of this, it never went away from American Symphony. I hadn't heard about this until I was doing some research on it, but it is a documentary on Jon Batiste, or with Jon Batiste, and he created the song. So, I mean, say no more there. Jon Batiste is amazing. He obviously is a previous winner for Soul, Colbert Show. People love him. I think it'll get him another nomination. Yeah, I'm blanking on a number of the other song contenders. It was definitely an odd shortlist. I mean, the omission of Peaches from the Mario movie and Jack Black. I mean, that is heresy, and I don't think anyone will disagree on that. But for while in mourning, I suggest we move on to the other musical category, and that would be original score. And I mean, again, it's getting a little boring just saying, number one is Oppenheimer. Well, I mean, yeah, it's Oppenheimer because it's Oppenheimer and it's Ludwig Göransson. He's a phenomenal composer. He really is. He always knocks it out of the park. He really did knock it out of the park here again. He's a previous winner for Black Panther. His work with Childish Gambino, Creed, The Mandalorian. I mean, go on and on with things that people don't even think about him for. Turning Red. He did the score for Turning Red, and it's amazing. And Oppenheimer, it is a great, impactful score. It's just like that movie doesn't work without the music. Can You Hear the Music has become an incredibly, used track in so many circles, and it's obviously one of the front runners to win this category. I think it's a lock to get nominated, and I think this other one is probably a lock too, but I could see it getting snubbed. I don't think it should. Obviously, again, I have my biases, but Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is my number 2, and I do think it does also become one of the front runners in this category, which I'm very happy to hear about that because it also had an incredible score. I mean, I really did like what Daniel Pemberton did on the first movie, and he really did step it up. I mean, with this, I loved seeing Into the Spider-Verse. I'm looking at my program. When I saw it a couple months ago live in concert, I know, I believe it was a couple weeks ago, maybe even a month ago at this point, that they had a score conducted live to the movie at the Academy. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Oh, wait, was it the Academy or the Dolby Theater? It was one of the two. And it was, but I mean, it clearly made a lot of buzz. And I mean, it's getting in all the right award circuits. I don't know if Grammy nomination timelines, I have no clue, to be completely honest. I'm not as good about following up with those. But I mean, it's getting in all the other awards shows. I think it's very deserving. I think really, if they're both in the same category, I think it will be very tough because it's Ludwig Göransson going for his second Academy Award versus Daniel Pemberton, who has been building his resume. I mean, he does have a great career lineup. I believe he got a song nomination for The Trials of Chicago 7, and I believe that's his only nomination. I could be wrong, but he is a really great composer, and what he did with Spider-Verse, the sheer variety of it is just outstanding. And the movie doesn't work without the score. And those two, I think, are the front runners of this category, and I think it'll be hard to challenge either of those. But it was a really good year for scores. Right next up, I have another 13-time nominee in this category, and I feel terrible. I want him to win something at some point, but I mean, it's just it's just always up against really good competition. Thomas Newman for Elemental. I mean, it's his first time coming to score a Pixar movie since Dory in 2016. I mean, crap, almost 8 years at this point, and before that, nothing since Wall-E. And so, I mean, I don't think he got a nomination for Dory, but Elemental has a very memorable soundtrack. I mean, even when I saw it the first time, I enjoyed it, and then slowly grew onto the movie more. But what I always loved from the first time I saw it was Thomas Newman's score, and he is a legacy composer. I don't think he'll win, which is unfortunate. But I mean, he got a nomination for Passengers, so I don't see why you wouldn't get a nomination for a Pixar movie. So he's on my list at number 3. Next up at 4, I don't know the name of this composer. I'm going to be completely honest, but Poor Things. I think Poor Things is it's doing the obligatory weird movie niche, and I do think it had a wonderful score. Wow, am I dying? Yeah, it had a very memorable score, and it played during all the marketing, which I think was a very smart decision, and it added so much to the tone of the movie. That movie really doesn't work without the score. I mean, most of these movies are that, but it adds to the expressionistic world of Poor Things, and I do think it'll get acknowledged in that category. And again, I'm sure it's a lesser known composer. I don't know if The Favorite or Yorgos' other movies have gotten in for score before, but I do think it'll get in here. And then 5, at first I didn't think it would crack in the score just because of its 2 placements in song, but I do have Barbie here. I mean, you can't have those songs without the music from Mark Ronson and Andrew Wyatt. Again, I hope I got their names right. Their score is crucial. Their music behind the lyric songs and just outside of that. I was listening to the track the other day where Ken, is just going through Century City, and they have the parody version of 2001 go on again, and it is a really memorable score. And again, tie that in with the songs, and I just think it's doing all the right things right now. People think of the music with Barbie so much, so I think it will crack in here. To go with honorable mentions, I wrote this specifically, so I will read it as, I profusely refuse it if it happens, but Killers of the Flower Moon is in the conversation. I did not find the score to be particularly memorable. I thought it was fine. I really don't remember it, and it was just surprising that there were some lists that had it over Across the Spider-Verse, which is just baffling to me. I remember nothing about the score, but other people connect to it. It's a classical score, I guess. I don't know. Not my cup of tea, but it's in the running, so sure, it could get a nomination. I don't know if I'll be happy if it does, but as long as it doesn't snub Across the Spider-Verse, that's my one piece. You snub that over Killers in this category, and I will riot. American Fiction, Laura Kaufman or Cartman. I always names are hard in this industry, but trying to remember them all really. She is a wonderful composer. I believe she got an Emmy nomination, if not win, for Ms. Marvel and a bunch of other things. She's racking up her credits film-wise. She's incredibly talented. She is absolutely deserving of a nomination at some point. And her score for American Fiction, having seen it now, is very good. I wasn't expecting it to be a jazzy score, and it did fit. It had a very nice fit, which I wasn't expecting, but I'm not disappointed in it at all. And then I believe Society is Snow with Giacchino is another one in contention. I think, was Asteroid City in contention here? I don't know, and I don't care about that movie, to be completely honest. I don't think John Williams will actually cross through with Indiana Jones this year. I do think VFX will be the area that it gets in. If it gets in, it just didn't make enough of a splash for an Indiana Jones movie. I think that's not a great sign, but it is John Williams, so you can never doubt him. And I mean, it's a great score. It really is. And then the last major category that I have things written down for, because international and documentary features, I unfortunately am not as well versed in. What I am well versed in is animated feature, and like director, like song, it's one of the easiest categories of the predictions to win. But the rest of the nominations are going to be very tough and competitive. Obviously, Across the Spider-Verse is one. It will get nominated and it will win this category. It's the only movie of these 5 that is a likely Best Picture contender. I mean, that usually just bodes well whenever a movie in animated or international is a contender in other major categories. It does usually lend itself well to win animated feature. And Across the Spider-Verse, I mean, it's just as groundbreaking, if not more so, than Into the Spider-Verse, which already changed the animation. Like, it changed the animation industry. That is not hyperbole. I mean, it's the easiest win ever, and I will not be disappointed at all. I will be cheering its praises on Oscar night. I mean, it's Across the Spider-Verse. What else can I say? And then next up is, it's also another lock, and I think in a different year, if they definitely did a little bit more campaigning for it and maybe released it a little bit earlier in the year, is Hayao Miyazaki's latest movie, The Boy and the Heron. The last time he came back to direct a movie from retirement, it turned out pretty well. Spirited Away won the 2nd Best Animated Feature award ever given. And, it is a very good movie. I think the second half lost me a little bit, but I think it is still an incredibly powerful movie, and people are really connecting with it. And again, it's Miyazaki, it's Studio Ghibli. It'll get a nomination. It did very well at the box office, which was very nice to see, especially for a 2D animated movie in the year 2023, or 2023 when it released, and it still might be in theaters now. But regardless, it's getting nominated. It's another easy lock. And then the other easy lock for nomination at number 3 is the only Disney contender I find having a chance here. Well, Disney Pixar, and that's Elemental. As I was saying before, it's Pixar. So, it's going to get a nomination for that. I think the fact that it had such a good comeback story at the box office, having such a low opening, but then word of mouth boosting it up higher and higher, just I think does lend well for Elemental's chances. Again, it has no chance of snubbing Across the Spider-Verse, and even if Across the Spider-Verse somehow didn't win, it would be Boy and the Heron. But Elemental is still absolutely delightful. I think Disney is probably smartly pushing their cards more towards Elemental as opposed to Wish, because I think, the more I think about Wish, the more I am disappointed in that movie, to be completely honest, as a fan of animation and Disney animation. But I'm a bigger fan of Pixar, and it's getting nominated. Peter Sohn directed his heart out there. And then the next 2 are definitely a little bit more, have a little bit more wiggle room. So next up, I do have Nimona from Netflix. I still need to see this movie. It has been on the top of my list since it came out in June, and yet I'm just so bad at watching movies at home. I really need to make the time for it. I believe it might be Blue Sky Animation, which surprised me. All I know is that it's Riz Ahmed and Chloe Grace Moretz, I believe, playing a gender fluid character, which is pretty awesome. It's one of Netflix's animated contenders, which I do think helps its chances out very well. Netflix usually always gets at least 1 or 2 in the animated feature category nowadays, and I think this will be no exception. I think Nimona is probably going to get in. I don't feel as confident as these top 3, but I feel pretty strongly that it has a chance to crack in. And then 5 is definitely a personal pick, and I am doing this to try and manifest it in there. And I'm so happy to be able to say that a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is in contention for an Oscar. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem was phenomenal. It reinvigorated my love for Ninja Turtles. That I loved Ninja Turtles as a kid. It was one of the things that, unlike Spider-Man and Sonic, that it didn't carry over as well into my adolescence and adulthood as much as, again, these other properties. But, this movie, does reinvigorate it. I really love this movie, and the animation is spectacular. It's the same team behind not including Lord Miller. It's the same directors behind Mitchell's versus the Machines, which was already fantastic. That movie should have won the year it came out. They do Spider-Verse style, but they do it so well with the griminess, the way, I believe they described it as, like a kid like drawing in their coloring book, and it shows. It's a gorgeous movie. It's a movie with so much heart. I really think that it should get a nomination here. Seth Rogen, I mean, I think this could be his first Oscar nomination as a producer here, which is surprising to say the least, but I would not be disappointed. There's a lot of animated contenders vying, whatever, for this number 5 slot. So this is definitely the riskiest pick here, but I have to manifest it. I really do. I really have a lot of faith and a lot of love in this movie. And I think the animation branch of the Academy will probably see that. I hope so anyway. The other honorable mentions are, I think the biggest one that has a chance to break in, and if there were 6, I probably would put this in there. And it does have a safer shot than TMNT, maybe even Nimona, the Super Mario Brothers movie. I mean, it's the second biggest movie of the year. It's Mario, and he finally got an animated movie, and it was finally done well. So I do think Academy voters will be like, hey, I know the plumber guy, old and new. And Illumination obviously knows how to do well at the box office. I don't think they've gotten, I'm trying to remember the last animation nomination they've gotten at the Oscars. Migration has no shot here. But the Mario movie, it's enjoyable. Everybody likes the movie for the most part. I'm still shocked that its Rotten Tomatoes score is technically rotten, but that's besides the point. It's like 59%. Again, that's just an aggregate of the I don't want to explain that right now, but I will be still very happy if it does get a nomination to hear the words Shigeru Miyamoto, Oscar nominee. The creator of Mario getting an Oscar nomination. Say no more. I would be very happy to hear that. DreamWorks is another contender with probably Trolls band together. I haven't heard too much about Ruby Gillman, but Trolls, the Trolls movies have always been popular. I believe the first movie got a nomination the year it came out. I don't know if the second movie did. Honestly, they kind of blend together, these movies. I've heard they're surprisingly good, but I haven't seen them. They're not really for me, but I could be proven wrong. I do love animation, and DreamWorks did incredibly well with Puss in Boots last year, so they could get that love and support here. Another Netflix contender from the Wallace and Gromit team is Chicken Run. I think it's Dawn of the Nugget is the subtitle. It's a legacy sequel. It's the Wallace and Gromit team. It's Netflix as well, so they do have the backing of that. So that could also very well sneak in. I don't know if it would do it over Nimona. I believe it's more recent, so it has a shot there. That'll be tough. I'm not sure there. Suzume, but I think in Makoto Shinkai's other films haven't gotten recognized. I doubt Suzume would, which is sad because it is a very good movie. And then, just because it's Disney, I have to at least bring up Wish as a contender. But again, the more I think about that movie, the more I really, I'm disappointed by it. And unlike Elemental, it bombed opening weekend, and it did not come back from that poor opening. So I don't think it'll get nominated. I think it was a good effort, but it really needed more time to cook in the oven, and I don't think it'll get a nomination there. But with that and internet, I've written down international feature, just 2 movies, Zone of Interest and Society of Snow. Again, I need to do more research with those categories, but I think I've done enough rambling. Those are my predictions for the Oscar nominations this upcoming Tuesday. They're coming up so soon. I'm still excited about it. I really am. I really always do like the Oscar nominations, and it's always exciting to see what gets snubbed, what gets surprised in, just seeing just a lot of, records broken, seeing good movies get honored. say what you will about the Oscars, and I completely, get any criticisms. I just had, that love for it as a kid, and it's carried over, and it's like, it's like you love it like a family member. It's where it's like you'll support everything they do well, and you will also give them shit for what they don't do well and want them to do better because you love them, because you want to always be there for them. But those are my nomination predictions for the 2024 Academy Awards, which, again, nominations are dropping this Tuesday, the I can't count, the 23rd, of January, early in the morning for any West Coasters, so I'm so sorry for you. But I won't have to wake up nearly as early, but I will be just as excited as usual. If you have any predictions yourself, let me know. I would love to hear them. Do you think Barbenheimer is going to sweep as much as I do? I think it's a pretty safe assumption. What are your favorite movies that you think deserve a shot at the Oscars? Just let me know, and I'll definitely be sure to give my thoughts and feedback in some form or another when the nominations drop on after Tuesday. And then, in general, I have, a lot of videos in the works. The best of list is coming. I promise that it will come in one shape or another. I really just hope I just can get the time and the right energy and motivation and focus and all that to get that and other videos on the pipeline. So be sure to look forward to that. Do all the YouTube stuff, like, comment, and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me if you listen to this. It's just this, again, this one's a little bit more chill, just doing it a little bit more podcast style, just by myself this time. And I think that is about everything. So have yourselves a wonderful day, afternoon, evening, good night, morning, dawn. I don't know. You could be watching this in the middle of the dawn. Take care. Stay safe. Stay warm. And stay safe out there with the winter weather for any East Coasters or anyone dealing with any severe winter weather right now. And take care. I'm just Ken.